Hello and welcome to our channel, Shakespeare's Plays and Summaries, where we go over the works of William Shakespeare. Be sure to subscribe and check out our library of videos. Alright, let's get right into it. Now, this isn't some dusty old story about a hero winning a war. No. Think of it more like a high-stakes psychological thriller. It's all about how one single whispered thought can take a loyal, celebrated soldier and just twist him into a blood-soaked tyrant. And you won't believe how fast he falls. It's that quick, and it is that brutal. I mean, think about that for a second. In our world, if someone said that, you'd laugh, right? You'd tell them to get some help. But in Macbeth's world, that one single moment, that one little prophecy, it doesn't just destroy one man. It's the spark that lights a fire that is going to rip an entire kingdom to shreds. So let's talk about our hero's welcome. From celebrated soldier to a man on the brink. You see, when we first meet Macbeth, he is an absolute rock star. We're talking the biggest hero in the Scottish military. He and his best friend, a guy named Banquo, have just saved the day. I mean, they've brutally crushed an invasion and put down a nasty civil rebellion for their king, Duncan. He's on top of the world. Yeah, everyone calls him Brave Macbeth, and for good reason. He's the kind of warrior whose sword, and this is a direct quote, smoked with bloody execution. The guy is a legend. He's praised by everyone, celebrated by the king, and you get the sense he's totally content with his life. And then we get to the whispers on the heath, the prophecy that ignites a dark ambition. Because just like that, everything changes. As Macbeth and Banquo are riding home from battle, through this misty, thunderstruck wasteland, they run smack into a vision of pure nightmare. 3 witches. And let me be clear, these are not your Halloween cartoon villain types. Think of them as primal forces of chaos. And here's the most important part. They don't tell Macbeth to do anything. They just name his future. First, their greeting is simple. They hail him as the Thane of Glamis. Okay, fine. He already is the Thane of Glamis. It's just a fact. Kind of weird, but it's like they're just getting him comfortable for what's coming next. Because then, they call him the Thane of Corridor. Now, this gets his attention. It puzzles him, because as far as he knows, the Thane of Corridor is very much alive and well. It's a promotion he wasn't expecting. And then, they drop the bomb, the most shocking prediction of all. They hail him as the man who will be king hereafter. And that's it. That's the fatal thought. You can almost feel it land, hitting Macbeth like a physical blow. The seed is planted. So Banquo, who's been standing there this whole time, is kind of like, hey, what about me? He's the cautious one, but he's curious, so he asks the witches for his own future. And what they tell him is another bombshell, a real head-scratcher. They say Banquo himself won't be a king, but his children will be. And with that little bit of chaos thrown into the mix, just as suddenly as they appeared, the weird sisters just vanish. Gone. Into the fog and filthy air. Macbeth's mind is just reeling from all this, right? But literally moments later, 2 royal messengers ride up with news that stops him dead in his tracks. Turns out, King Duncan is so thrilled with Macbeth's victory that he's executed the old traitorous Thane of Cawdor, and he's giving the title and all the land and wealth that comes with it to Macbeth. The second prophecy, it just came true. Right there. It's real. And this right here, this is the ultimate moment of decision for him. He's at a crossroads. He knows that final prophecy, becoming king, could just happen naturally, by chance. But the other thought starts creeping in. The idea of helping it along, of murdering his beloved king. And that thought is a horrid image that makes his hair stand on end and his heart pound. See, that is core. Macbeth is an honorable man. But that ambition? It's like a deep cancer that has just been activated. Now, let's talk about his ambitious wife. She is the ruthless engine of this nightmare. Because if you think Macbeth's ambition is a problem, well, you haven't met Lady Macbeth yet. She is the real game changer in this whole terrible story. You see, when Macbeth sends a letter home telling her about the prophecies, her reaction is the complete opposite of his. He feels fear. She feels outrage. Outrage at his hesitation. She knows he has ambition, but she thinks he's too soft, too full of the milk of human kindness to do what needs to be done to grab that crown. It's basically an insult. She's saying he's not man enough. Oh yeah, she knows her husband, and she knows exactly how to twist the knife. And then, as if on cue, King Duncan announces he's going to stay the night at, you guessed it, Macbeth's castle. For Lady Macbeth, this isn't a coincidence. This is fate delivering the perfect opportunity right to their doorstep. And her reaction is to say this famous, chilling prayer to the powers of darkness. Unsex me here. She's literally asking evil spirits to strip away everything that makes her a woman, her compassion, her remorse, and fill her with pure cruelty, top to bottom. She's iron-willed, she's calculating, and at this moment, she is fully in control. So now we come to the point of no return, forging a plan in blood. Because even with everything that's happened, Macbeth is still wavering. Right up to the last second, his conscience is just screaming at him. He actually lists all the perfectly good reasons why killing Duncan is a monstrous idea. First, he's the king's host. He's supposed to protect him. Second, he's his cousin, his family. And third, Duncan is a great, beloved ruler. Killing him would be a disaster for the whole country. And for a second, it looks like his better nature might win. He goes to his wife and says flat out, "We will proceed no further in this business." He tries to call it off. And this is where Lady Macbeth unleashes a legendary performance of pure psychological warfare. She knows exactly where to hit him. In this warrior society, a man's entire worth is tied to his courage. So she goes right for the throat. She mocks his manhood. She questions if he ever truly loved her. She asks him if he's content to live a coward for the rest of his life. And then, to show him what real commitment looks like, she paints this absolutely sickening picture. She says she would have taken her own nursing baby and smashed its brains out before she would break a promise like the one he made to her. It's just unbelievably brutal. And with that, she completely dominates him, stripping away every last bit of his moral strength. And it works. He just breaks. Macbeth gives in. His final words on the matter are a chilling, "I am settled." And the plan she comes up with is horrifyingly simple. Step 1. Get King Duncan's guards so drunk they pass out. Step 2. Sneak in and use their own daggers to murder the king. Step 3. Smear the king's blood all over the sleeping guards. And Step 4. Leave the bloody daggers with them. A perfect frame job. Which brings us to the crime itself and its fractured aftermath. They call it murdering sleep. And so the deed is done. But the consequences? They begin immediately. On the very night of the murder, Macbeth's mind just starts to crack. Right before he goes to kill Duncan, he sees a vision, a hallucination. It's a bloody dagger, just floating in the air, with its handle pointed right at him, almost inviting him to grab it and do the deed. This isn't magic. This is a physical manifestation of his own tortured mind. He goes through with it. He commits the ultimate sin. But when he comes back, he's completely broken. He's drenched in blood, and he's still clutching the murder weapons, the daggers he was supposed to plant on the guards. He's a mess, saying he heard a voice crying out, "Sleep no more, Macbeth does murder sleep." Lady Macbeth is just furious with his weakness. She snatches the daggers from him, goes back into the room, and smears the blood on the sleeping guards herself. When she comes back, her hands are just as red as his, and she looks at him and says, "My hands are of your color, but I shame to wear a heart so white." In other words, I'm covered in blood too, but at least I'm not a coward about it. And that leads us to the crown of blood and the question of how to steal a kingdom. The murder is done. The frame-up is in place. Now all they have to do is wait for the crime to be discovered. And what follows is a chaotic and bloody morning after. The next morning, a nobleman named Macduff, who is loyal to the king, discovers the body. All hell breaks loose. But Macbeth, playing the part of the shocked and grieving host, does something shockingly clever. He immediately kills the 2 guilty guards, claiming it was a fit of pure rage. A brilliant move, because now they can't talk. Well, Duncan's sons, Malcolm and Donald Bane, they aren't stupid. They realize they're probably next on the killer's list, so they flee Scotland for their lives. But here's the tragedy. In doing so, they immediately make themselves look guilty of killing their own father. And just like that, the path to the throne for Macbeth is wide open. So, with the rightful heirs out of the picture and everyone blaming the dead guards, Macbeth is called to the ancient royal city of Scone, and he is crowned King of Scotland. He got what he wanted. The prophecy came true. But the blood on his hands is still fresh. That crown feels way too heavy on his head, and the paranoia, the guilt, and the horror? Well, that is only just beginning. So Macbeth has done it. He has everything he ever wanted. The blood's barely dry on his hands, but the crown is on his head. He got the ultimate prize with a single, terrible act. But here's the thing. This isn't the end of the story. No, this is where the real tragedy begins. Right, so let's get into it. Because that feeling of triumphs? It's already gone. The ambitious warrior who fought for Scotland is gone. In his place, a paranoid king. See, the witch's prophecy came true for him, sure. But there's this massive catch. They also promised that his friend, Banquo, would be the father of a whole line of future kings. And this just eats away at him. He realizes, what's the point of being king if your own kids aren't going to inherit the throne? You can almost hear him thinking, did I really just damn my soul so that Banquo's kids could take over? No way. And that's the moment his ambition curdles into something much, much darker. Pure, desperate tyranny. And what's really fascinating here is the power dynamic between Macbeth and his wife. It completely flips on its head. Remember how Lady Macbeth was the one calling all the shots? Well, not anymore. Now, Macbeth is in the driver's seat, and he's plotting all by himself. He's shutting out the very woman who pushed him to do this in the first place. This line, wow, it is just bone-chilling. When his wife, his former partner in crime, asks him what horrible thing he's planning next, that's his response. He just dismisses her. The power dynamic has completely flipped. He's going down this dark path alone, and she's left on the outside sinking in her own guilt. Okay, so with his wife pushed aside, Macbeth focuses on one thing, securing his legacy. And that means he has to crush the threat of Banquo's prophecy for good. He brings in a couple of hitmen and gives them a simple job, ambush Banquo and his young son Flance on their way back to the palace. The trap is set. In the dark, the murderers strike. They get their main target. Banquo is cut down. Brutally. But, and this is a huge but, in all the chaos, Flance, the kid, the one the prophecy is all about, he gets away. He escapes into the night. So think about what this means. The job's only half done. Macbeth's problem isn't just unsolved, it's arguably worse now. The prophecy is still in play, and there's a living heir out there somewhere who has every reason to want revenge. And the timing of this news? It couldn't be worse. Macbeth finds this out right as he's kicking off a huge banquet to celebrate being king. And this brings us to the banquet. This is supposed to be the high point for Macbeth. It's his big moment to show everyone, I am the king. But instead, it turns into the scene of his absolute, total, and very public meltdown. So Macbeth goes to take his seat at the head of the table, but he doesn't see an empty chair. He sees Banquo's ghost, covered in blood, just staring at him. It's this perfect, terrifying picture of his own guilt. Because here's the picker. Nobody else in the room can see a thing. And the new king just snaps. He starts screaming at what everyone else sees as an empty chair, yelling at this invisible ghost. Can you imagine being one of the guests? The lords of Scotland are just frozen, watching in horror as their brand new king completely unravels in front of them. Lady Macbeth desperately tries to run damage control, telling the guests, oh, don't worry about him. It's just an old illness. But it's way too late for that. He's basically exposed his guilty conscience to the entire court. She has no choice but to kick everyone out. The party ends in total disaster. After that train wreck of a banquet, it's obvious Macbeth is losing his grip. Convinced he's in too deep to turn back, he fully commits to this path of evil. He decides he needs more answers, more certainty. So where does he go? Right back to where it all began, the witches. He demands they show him the future, and they deliver 3 terrifying apparitions. The first is a straight-up warning, beware Macduff. But the next 2 prophecies are just what he wants to hear. They basically tell him that no man naturally born from a woman can hurt him, and that he's completely safe until a forest literally gets up and marches up a hill. So how does Macbeth take this? He doesn't hear riddles. He hears an ironclad guarantee. I mean, come on, right? Every person is born from a woman, and a forest can't walk. He just laughs it all off, believing himself to be completely invincible. But even with all that, his paranoia is still gnawing at him. He has to know one last thing. Will Banquo's descendants ever reign? And the witches? Oh, they show him. They conjure a horrifying vision of a long line of kings, and every single one of them looks just like Banquo. It's his worst fear confirmed. Absolutely enraged by this vision, But still clinging to a sense of invincibility, Macbeth decides to act on that first prophecy about Macduff. He gets word that Macduff has fled to England to join the opposition. His response is swift, brutal, and completely unnecessary. This is his most monstrous act by far. He sends his killers to Macduff's castle with a single, chilling order: kill everyone inside. And they do. They slaughter Lady Macduff, her innocent children, and the entire household. This isn't about ambition anymore. This is just pure, senseless cruelty. And that act solidifies who he is now. He is no longer a king or even a usurper. He is known only as this dead butcher, a tyrant who rules through meaningless cruelty. Any honor he once had is completely gone. Meanwhile, over in England, the horrifying news of the massacre reaches Macduff. He's there pleading with Malcolm, the true heir to the throne, to raise an army and take back Scotland. You can just feel it, right? The final pieces for the endgame are falling into place. Macduff is just destroyed by the news. His grief is overwhelming. But Malcolm gives him this powerful advice. Don't just mourn. Let that pain sharpen your resolve. Turn it into rage. And just like that, this tragedy gives Macduff a singular burning mission: find Macbeth and make him pay. So, this sets up the final confrontation. We have a hero forged in grief, driven by a righteous need for revenge, coming for a tyrant who believes himself to be untouchable. The stage is set for a bloody conclusion, leaving us with one big question: who really pays the ultimate price for ambition? So, the slaughter of Macduff's family. That was it. That was the final, unforgivable act that sealed Macbeth's fate. We're at the endgame now, and the bloody trail he's left behind, well, it's leading straight to the ruin of his queen and the complete collapse of his entire blood-soaked kingdom. You know, while Macbeth is just digging in, doubling down on his tyranny, something's happening to Lady Macbeth. Her famous iron will, it's completely snapped. All that guilt she so easily dismissed, it's come back with a vengeance and has driven her totally mad. And from that madness, we get one of the most unforgettable lines in all of literature. So picture this. She's in a trance, sleepwalking through the castle, reliving every single murder. She's talking about Duncan, about Banquo, even about Lady Macduff. The powerful, manipulative woman we knew, she's gone. And her place is just this tortured soul. Her doctor sees it all and basically says, you know, people with guilty consciences will talk in their sleep, but he knows there's no medical cure for this. This is a sickness of the soul. So, as the castle is literally rotting from the inside out, the forces of justice are gathering at the gates. The Scottish lords? They've had enough. They're abandoning Macbeth and flocking to join Malcolm, who's brought an English army with him. And leading the charge, absolutely fueled by revenge, is Macduff. Their target is Macbeth's fortress, Dunsinane. Okay, so you've got this massive army marching towards you. What do? Well, if you're Macbeth, you're surprisingly defiant. He's not scared. Why? Because he's clinging to those witches' prophecies for dear life. It's like this blind faith has totally replaced any real courage, and now he just thinks he's, well, invincible. His entire defense, his whole sense of safety, it all rests on these two weird supernatural guarantees from the witches. Let's break them down. Number 1. He can't be beaten until an entire forest, Birnam Wood, gets up and moves to his castle. And number 2, he can't be killed by any man who was born of woman. Now, to Macbeth, that sounds like a rock-solid guarantee of immortality, right? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? All right, so Malcolm's combined army of Scots and English are getting closer and closer to Macbeth's fortress. And where do they end up? Right at the edge of Birnam Wood. And it's here that Malcolm gives a very clever order. An order that's about to solve one of those riddles. I mean, seriously, how can a forest move? This is the big question, right? For Macbeth, it's not even a question. It's a certainty. It's the linchpin of his whole defense. A forest can't just get up and march up a hill to a castle. It sounds absolutely impossible. And here is the brilliant simple solution. This is exactly how the witches play their game of words. Malcolm's command is simple. To hide how many soldiers they have, every single man is to cut down a big branch from Birnam Wood and carry it in front of him. And just like that, an army of men disappears and becomes an army of trees. A moving forest, marching straight for Dunsinane. So let's cut back to Dunsinane. Macbeth is getting ready for a long siege, strapping on his armor, and then suddenly a blood-chilling shriek echoes through the castle. It's the sound of his queen's death. And the play, pretty heavily implies she took her own life. And Macbeth's reaction to his wife's death? It's just cold, utterly empty. He's basically given up his soul for this crown, and you can see the cost right here. He just sinks into this deep despair and delivers this absolutely chilling speech about how life is completely meaningless. But this dark moment of philosophy is completely shattered. A messenger bursts in, absolutely terrified, and claims he saw the forest moving. The first prophecy has just come true, and in an instant, all of Macbeth's confidence is gone, replaced by this desperate, cornered fury. He knows the witches have played him for a fool. Okay, so the final battle is just pure chaos. Macbeth is fighting like a cornered animal, just savagely cutting down anyone in his path. He even kills this brave young soldier, young Seward, which just makes him more confident in that second prophecy. He thinks, see, no one can stop me. And then he comes face to face with Macduff, the one man he has been trying to avoid this whole time. The two of them fight, and it is fierce. But then Macbeth, still hiding behind that riddle, basically yells at Macduff that he's wasting his time. He boasts that he has a charmed life, that he can't be hurt by any man born from a woman. This is it. This is his final anchor, his very last shred of hope. So let's just break this down, because this is the fatal misunderstanding. When Macbeth hears of woman born, he thinks that means literally every person on the planet. He doesn't hear the ambiguity. He doesn't see the deadly loophole hidden in the witch's very, very careful choice of words. And then Macduff delivers the final, absolutely soul-crushing blow. He reveals he wasn't born in the natural way. He was, as he says, from his mother's womb untimely ripped. He was delivered by what we'd call a cesarean section. And with that one sentence, the witch's word game is revealed, and Macbeth's last hope is just ripped away from him. Realizing he's been completely beaten by a prophecy, Macbeth still refuses to surrender. He's going to fight to the end. They go at it one last time, and a few moments later, Macduff walks back onto the stage holding the severed head of the tyrant. The reign of the dead butcher and his fiend-like queen is finally, brutally over. And just like that, with the tyrant gone, justice is restored. Malcolm, who is Duncan's son and the rightful heir, is proclaimed the new king of Scotland. Finally, peace can return to the land. So what's the big takeaway from all this? The story doesn't just end with the new king getting a crown. It ends with this really powerful, hard-won lesson. And it's this: when you seize power through violence, you can only hold it through more violence, until that bloody cycle inevitably turns around and consumes the person who started it all. A brutal but unforgettable warning. Final thoughts on Macbeth. Don't forget to visit our bookstore link for your own copy.